I love having music because everyone knows when to stop talking. It's great. Okay, everyone, we're gonna continue on with GitHub. You only have one more lecture with me for now. I'm here to help you get set up, and then you'll get to meet/learn from all of the other instructors in following lectures. Just a few announcements. Again, please, please, please tell me if you aren't enrolled into any of the important things. Ed, grade scope, B courses. B courses should be less of an issue unless you're auditing. If you're not sure what I mean, it's not you. Don't worry. Grade scope and ed are a little weird for us because we're a decal. It's hard to link things, and so we kind of have to do things manually. So if you haven't been entered, please, you really need to be entered. Homework 1 is due on Wednesday. And then, of course, we always have the 3-week grace period. Don't let it pile up too much, especially these first ones, because there are ways to make sure that you are all set up. Yeah, homework 1 due on Wednesday. Here's the office hours schedule. We're gonna try and have it up on all of them, I think, on all of the slides, just in case y'all forget. Yeah, before we get started, any questions for me? Mostly logistics. We'll get into everything else a little bit later. Cool. Feel free to interrupt me if you need. Let's skip through. We've seen all of this. Just a reminder, GitHub kind of sucks, but it's standard, so we're teaching you here. GitHub is website platform, repos, all that stuff, and Git is a way to access your GitHub through your command line. If you didn't see my apology, Ed announcement, I realized after the fact that I was using GitHub and Git. Oh, that's not what I meant to do. I was using GitHub and Git in interchangeably. That they are not interchangeable. GitHub is the server where all of your projects are stored. Git is a package for helping you access it. So don't get those confused. We downloaded Git last time, not GitHub. Let's see. Yeah, cringy 2013 meme. That's good. Okay. We are going to continue with setup. If you have not, for whatever reason, managed to get your SSH key, oh, one of the other instructors, Maham, reminded me to remind you guys that the final step of SSH keys are to go to your GitHub account, go up to your profile picture. You can't really see mine because it's the deep Hubble field, which is my favorite picture of all time. But if you go to your profile picture, click on it, scroll down, go to settings, scroll down on this side, go to SSH and GPG keys. You have to click new SSH key and then copy paste your SSH key. So what you did when you created that SSH key is you created a public and a private pair. The private pair was stored in your computer. It stays there forever. The public pair, the public part of that pair, you copied with the command, for Mac, it would have been pbcopy. For Windows, so this copies it. Any of those, or depending on what your computer is. So I would do pbcopy. A Linux user would use sudo apt-get and then xclip, and then Windows would use clip. That wouldn't show anything on your terminal, so maybe you weren't aware that it copied something, but it did. It put it on your clipboard, and then you have to go back to this GitHub and paste whatever you generated. And that is how you manage to get your SSH keys. So let's do some demo. We can see if this all worked. Okay, actually questions before I keep going. Yeah. Once you have added your SSH key, you have constant access to your GitHub. Cool? So let me show you guys how to access your GitHub, because that's kind of what we're doing. Please, if you can, follow along. Otherwise, this video will be up by the end of the day. The YouTube is up online. It's linked. The current playlist for this semester is up. And I linked it in the B courses. So first thing you're gonna want to do, okay, I have a project. What's my project about? Let's call it dragons again. I like doing projects about dragons. Enjoy dragons as a concept. So we're gonna hit new repository. Generally you want to name it with a decent description. I like dragons. You can make it private if you really care about your privacy. Chances are that depending on what you're doing, no one's going to care about it enough to hack it. But anyway, all they can do is pull it. They won't be able to push it without an SSH key or collaborator access, which you grant to people. Yeah, what's up? Yeah, following along is probably a good idea. The best way to get used to this is to do it. But for you guys, so this is kind of a throwaway repository for me. Later, I'm going to give you a chance to work on creating like a repo for this class. But for now, yeah, sure. Follow along. Otherwise, again, the video will be up later. And we are recording. Yes, we are recording. Yeah, so make your description better than that. I'm just tired. And then a README is good. README files are basically things that tell everyone what your repo is about. Generally, if you're pulling something from the GitHub, there will be a README, and I highly recommend that you read it, if only because you want to make sure that you're not, I don't know, downloading a virus or anything. I don't care about this really. If you get to the point where you do, then maybe you can come back and teach me some coding. And then you can choose a license. If you care what people want to do with your code, go ahead. But again, this is just a throwaway, so I'm not selecting any of those, just the README. So create the repo. And then can go to the README. Okay, it just says dragons. I like dragons. Gives a description. Great. So how do we pull this? This is going to be a little bit of me just lecturing at you because you guys have no way of knowing this. So you're going to hit this green code button. Everyone should have this SSH tab. If you don't, it's probably because you didn't set up your SSH key right, or you forgot to put it into your settings. So you're going to copy this. If you click this button, you'll copy your URL to your clipboard. Go to your terminal. For my Windows folks, that'll be git bash. Mac folks, just terminal is good. The command that you want to run is, actually, I'm going to clear this so it's not. Yeah,
dependent directory?
That's a great question. What do you think will happen when I clone this, depending on where I am? Yeah, it's gonna create a new directory where you are. So I like putting my directories in my desktop. It just so happens that I'm already in my desktop from previous work, because I like putting my directories in my desktop. So I tend to stay there. But yeah, so let's see what happens here. Let's ls my desktop. You can see how disorganized I am. That's fine. Yeah, I'm taking 110A. Wonderful. This is my textbook because don't buy textbooks, kids. Yeah, what's up? Yeah. So let me get into my home directory. So the command cd moves you places. And then depending here, so the command ls lists out what you have. I have or if you want to get into your desktop, you type cd desktop. And I would highly recommend going back through our very first lecture that's up on YouTube. It's about command line. There's a whole bunch of, commands. I know a lot of people joined after that lecture. So yeah, please raise your hand, ask me whatever questions. So now we're in our desktop. The command is git clone, and then you command paste the URL, the SSH URL. Questions about that so far? Yep. Does anyone, can anyone answer that? Yep. Yep. So if you go to your repository, you just made a new repository. You go to this green code button. You'll go to this SSH tab. It's defaulted to SSH because that's all I use, but for you guys, it'll probably be defaulted to HTTPS. But you should go to SSH because SSH is better. If you use HTTPS, you'll have to create a personal access token every time. So far as I'm aware, SSH is just better. So you click that copy button, copy URL to clipboard, or you can highlight it and use whatever keyboard shortcuts work. Cool? Yeah, for sure. Okay. So git clone and then the SSH URL. It should say cloning into dragons. And then these remote things. Yeah. Yeah. Yep, not every time. So you should just put in the password that you created for the SSH key. You had a question.
I pressed enter and then it said the git command requires the command line develop.
What? Are you trying next? Yeah, you can also move this chair like over here, and then it'll probably reach the outline of the animations. Yeah.
Like the authenticity of the post
Uh-huh.
be established and is asking like key fingerprint, and he is not my known, he knows my identity, and then one, like ask, are you sure you want to continue?
You are sure. Does it say Y/N/fingerprint?
Yes.
Okay, hit Y, press enter, and then it'll clone.
Yeah.
Or yes, whatever it tells you to do.
Or-
That's fine. It just doesn't know. And your computer is very careful. Especially with GitHub, because again, GitHub is an open source thing. So you really could be downloading whatever. And this is why you need to read documentation before you clone anything. Fortunately, we just made this repo, so we know what's in it. But yeah. There was another question over here.
Oh, yeah, I got the same thing. and
Okay.
I put one, and it didn't do it. Or it couldn't stop.
Make sure you're connected to the internet.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so now that we have created this, let's listen to it. Great, Dragons is in there. That's so awesome. That's so sick. Let's get into Dragons. So what's the command for getting into a directory? Someone yell it out. Great. Okay, we are in Dragons. Okay, there's a README. Great, good. You don't have a README in yours? When you created the repo, did you select add README?
Yeah, and then it also says like read.
Oh, go LS, right? Or go LS. So LS lists out what's inside of this. CD just moves you to Dragons. Yeah, of course. Remember, CD just moves you somewhere. LS just lists what's where you are. Yeah, what's up? Sorry, one more time. Oh, yeah. So, just a reminder for everybody, when you're typing in your password in your command line, it doesn't show anything. It's not gonna show that you typed anything, so if you just keep typing like a letter, I did this so many times, it will remember the letters that you typed. So, you just type your password, hope you did it right, and then hit enter. You get really good at remembering how to type your passwords, I promise. It just sucks for a little bit. Yeah. Let me actually show you that in practice so everyone can see what it should look like. Also, just a heads up, if your terminal doesn't look like mine, that's because I spent a lot of time on it. If you want to learn how to do it, come to my office hours. Do do do. Good. So I'm gonna show you what that password thing looks like. So I'm gonna actually SSH into, you won't be able to do this, just watch. This is something that I talked about a little bit earlier that we won't really get time for, just because you guys don't have access to another computer to SSH onto. SSH stands for secure shell. So you can access other computers with it. It's just like how we're using SSH keys on GitHub. You're accessing the GitHub server with an SSH key. So let's see, SSH, I think to at ugastro.edu. Okay, great. It's asking me for my password. I think this is my password. It's not showing anything, but here, I'm in. This is, by the way, this is what you get access to if you do research with the department or you take one of the upper div lab courses. You get access to this computer that basically there's a lot of space, a lot of computing power. It's great. But as you could see, I was typing, nothing was showing up. Okay, back to dragons. So we're in dragons. Remember, ls lists out the contents of what's in dragons. Now let's add something. Because we want something to push. So let's make just a random text file. Or Python or okay, raise your hands for a text file versus a Python file. Raise your hands for a Python file versus a text file. Okay, cool. So does anyone remember how to open up does anyone remember the command for opening up a new file inside of your terminal? Like to write into? Yeah. Yeah, nano is one. I really liked the question I got on Ed earlier, which was, should I use Vim? You can. I promise I'm biased. Just don't choose for yourself. Nano is a great starting place because it's less confusing, but it can still be confusing. So we're gonna call this worm, because worms are a type of dragon. Actually. And we're gonna call it worm.py. It's a Python file. You need to get the extension name right. Cool. It's gonna take you to this. Very weird. It's just an empty text editor. You'll also be able to edit things on VS Code. There's also ways to commit to GitHub via VS Code. We'll talk about that later in different lectures. So because you guys don't really know anything about Python yet, we're just gonna do something funky. I'm gonna say print. What am I printing, guys? But that's false. We're gonna learn about data types later. But here, just give me 1 second. This is funny. So one thing you can do is make an F string, and it's a way of formatting things. I actually kind of want to see. I'm gonna do 0 doesn't equal 1, right? We're all agreed on that. Great. Pranati, this is gonna do what I want it to do, right?
Hope it's gonna do what
I'm
you want it to do.
so excited. Okay. Yeah, what's up?
Like double quotes versus single.
Doesn't matter. Just make sure you're consistent.
If you're using, like, if you're putting in a text string though, like, let's say you have like something that has like an apostrophe in it, then you wanna use doubles.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if I wanted to make a contraction out of isn't, then you would need double quotes because you just need to be consistent, because otherwise the text editor is going to think that this is the end of the quote and it's going to give you an error. But again, we'll talk about that a little bit later. So the way to save and get out of Nano is you hit Control X, you just exit, and it asks you if you want to save the modified buffer, answering yes. We destroy changes here. Okay, Y, and then just enter. Okay, great. So now worm.py is in there. I'm so excited. I actually want to see really badly what's in there. Does anyone remember how to run a Python file? Yeah. Yeah. And then, yeah, worm.py. Yes, it did it. That's false. We'll learn about Booleans soon. Okay, so here's a problem though, right? It's in, you can see it's in this directory, right? It's in my dragons directory, but, oh God, that's not what I wanted. That was a jump scare. Oh my God. Worm.py is not in my GitHub server. It's just on my local computer. So what we do is a command called git add, and then you want to specify which directory you're adding. So git add period. Who remembers what period means? Great, great. Yes, perfect. So basically, it's not going to do anything. That's fine. That's actually good because it means you didn't throw an error. Git commit is the next command. You have to add a message, and the way to do that is to add -m. That's a flag. That is a way of saying, okay, the next thing that comes is going to be my message. Yeah, what's up?
When I did like the git add dot,
Yeah.
it says warning. In the working copy of worm.py, LF will be replaced by CRLF. I know it's
Okay.
It's the same reason I couldn't push to clear the repository.
Oh, okay. Also, guys, just a heads up. Reminder, if you have a Windows machine, on Friday was a Windows only help session. Today, there's another one today. If you can make it, please.
I have my office hour right after this class, and then I'm gonna get lunch, and then I'll come back and then do the Windows.
Yes. So if you need anything, please, 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 please. Unfortunately, there's only so much I can do with Windows. I am a Mac user through and through, and it's hard to be able to help people with something I don't regularly practice on, but I will do my best. Yeah. I think it's 1:30.
It's 1:30 to 3:30.
Cool. And then if those times didn't work for anyone who really needs it, there are other office hours, and you can set up a one-on-one session if you really need to. We'll do our best to help you guys out, okay? So git commit is next. So it's always git add, and then whatever directory you want to commit, and then git commit -m, and then a string. So we'll talk about what strings are, but basically it's just words. So you can do double quotations or single quotations. You want to make it a descriptive commit message. So I'm gonna say, okay, worm.py shows that worms are dragons. Are a type of dragon in, I don't know, I think it's Celtic folklore. Okay, make sure you close it with the same quotation marks. We'll talk more about that when we talk about data types. Hit enter. Cool. It's going to show you this wild thing. It's great. It'll say committer. That's awesome. That's perfect. Maybe it'll say your name and email address were configured automatically based on your username and host name. That's okay. It's going to suggest that you do this. You don't have to do that. You also don't have to do that. What matters is that you have one file changed, one insertion, and you're in create mode. Next is git push. This is where all the magic happens. Cool. This looks familiar because it's what happened when you cloned it initially. So, oh my God, I keep jump scaring myself. Now, okay, so there's still nothing there. If there's still nothing there, that's okay. Refresh. Worm.py, it's there. You can look at it. It's cool. Questions? This is the time. Yeah, what's up?
I stuck on the page where we like typed out the.
Do you use Nano?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fine.
I just whatever. Oh, yeah, so to get out, I don't want to like. This is like. Yeah. Oh. So. Okay. So it's gonna be big to this. Wait. Without them. Oh, two N. Space, and then minus, and then string. Which is the quote string, yeah. Yeah, that's right. And now. Change. So to make a new type of file, type nano. So, and then. So this is, I make it work. But it said. Yeah. So it's not supposed to be inside quotation marks. And then just. Full S, and then Oh, yes.
Chronically, yep, CRLF issue.
Yeah, I'll come over.
Okay.
It's a super easy fix, it's just like the juice. Should work. You have CRL? No. So what happens there? So it's not in the way that you're. Yeah, we're gonna do it anytime. Computer, you want them to edit on the ceilings. I'll be there.
Yeah.
So, that we're not that, but you just have to make it and then referencing relative to. Make sure that you're inside or around. TV will always get you into one. So changing your darn. Hello. So, that's okay, that's okay. Yeah.
So to get it out of it, natural. Okay, nice. Okay. Did you have a question? So your hand. Sam's up first. All right.
I don't know when it's like.
It's okay, I just. Oh, yeah. That's okay. You can. Stop and. Or like. Might be a little bit. So. We're supposed to just explain where to go.
I don't know, give it to me. And then once you close. To get out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Every time I see it, it's like.
Yeah.
That is because it looks like you are inside of Homer, so right now. Right now.
So they can find.
Now. Don't worry about my computer. Bathroom is not. But still using it as or like try that, and in order to be right, I can. So.
You're fast. Just, tell me again, that makes you know where it is. So I'm your desktop. So when you set up a just.
Yeah, you can add, there could be a document for that, or I had it.
Yeah. No. Then what?
So when it's reading your file, it wants to know where it's all in, and Windows and.
Hey, everyone, I want to really quickly talk about, Git etiquette and like version control and stuff. And then, we'll continue to help out as we go. I just really need to talk about this really quickly. That's not what I want. That's what I want. So basically, common practices. you really don't want to be a jerk because GitHub is what you'll use when you're collaborating with people. Also, if you're kind of wondering why we're doing this, imagine you're working for a company, you've got some really important code that you've been working on your personal computer, and then you drop it in the river or whatever. If you do that, your disk drive is kaput. If you've pushed to GitHub, which you should, then all of the work is saved. Yeah, you're out a laptop, but your company isn't out however many working hours it took to make that code. So common practices for GitHub. We care about readability. That's documentation, human language. We're learning a not human language, and computers are very stupid. And y'all will overestimate computers and their ability to understand you. And so will your colleagues. So make sure your colleagues know what you wrote, because it's a pain in the butt to read code. It sucks. Make it informative, make it succinct. You'll get better at this as we go on. We will be looking for documentation in all of your homeworks, except homework 1, because we didn't tell you guys to do it. Don't commit unfinished code that doesn't make any sense to anyone else. It's less important now because you're really the only person who's going to be working on your code. But in future, when you are collaborating, you don't want to just commit a random block of code and have your coworkers be like, what is going on here? That's just mean. If you're not done coding, write a documentation line, write a comment. We'll show you how to do that. Write a comment and be like, this isn't done. This is what I'm trying to do. If you have any ideas, shoot me an email. Stuff like that. And then versions, another great thing about GitHub, imagine you push some random thing that you didn't want to push, and now you don't have that copy on your local server because you changed it. That's fine. GitHub has version control, which basically means every commit you've ever done is saved on GitHub, which is great because then you don't have to deal with it. Eventually, you'll get to deal with merge conflicts. Don't worry about that right now. That's okay. We will do our best to avoid that. We actually changed the homework format and system so that you wouldn't have to deal with merge conflicts yet. Those are great when they actually matter. But when you guys are trying to learn Python, you shouldn't have to deal with them. Yeah, so that's basically all I wanted to say about that. So I'm going to stop the Zoom recording. Leave if you need to. Start migrating up to 355 for office hours. Brianna will also be there. And then I will